What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Event Masters. This is the show where we take you from event producer and turn you into event master. Now, we do that by telling you the tips, the tricks, the strategies, and the stories from people in the industry that have become event masters themselves. And we tell you the stories every single Friday at 3 p.m. All right. So with that being said, we have another amazing guest today. I'm excited about him. The last time I met him, I just had so much fun that we had to bring him on the show. All right, so with that being said, let's get into it.
Welcome to the show, EventMASTERS. You need to listen to this if you want to throw bigger and better events. Learn how to monetize and land bigger racks. Yeah, this is where you can learn how to do that. EventMASTERS.
Welcome, everybody. Like I said, to another episode of Event Masters. I am your host, Dylan Shinholzer, and as you guys can tell, once again, someone on this team is out partying a little too early for his birthday this weekend. So Patrick is not here to join us, but we forgive him because the boy works hard, so he gets to have a weekend off, I guess. But regardless, you guys are stuck with me today, and that means, as always, when Patrick's out, okay, we get to have a little fun. So, of course, our guest today is going to be super fun. But before I do that, okay, if I don't ask, you guys don't do, all right? So go ahead and like, subscribe, and follow us on all social medias, the Facebooks, the Instagrams, the YouTubes, the LinkedIns, or maybe you guys are audio folks and you want to just go over to Spotify or Apple and download that. That works too. Leave us a review while you're there though, okay? And with that being said, I want a couple shout outs real quick. Event Next is in like 2 weeks, okay? 2 weeks. We're actually on the 2 weeks, two Fridays from now. Event Next is coming up. And the reason I'm really shouting that out now is because our guest today is one of our amazing speakers, and you guys get to learn a little bit more about him and everything he does, and get to hear his excitement and energy as much as I liked it the other day. So enough of me rambling. This show's not about me. As you guys can see in the title, we're all about catering and food, and every single person on this planet loves food, okay? And if you ever wanted to learn how to cater 30,000 person events or down to 30 people events, this is the person you want to talk to. So without further ado, I want to go ahead and introduce Thomas Whelan.
Hey, how are you?
How are you? I'm
good, living the dream.
Good. Yeah, living the dream's good. Staying busy over in your way.
We are getting busy. I am actually in the office today, which is like wild. It feels like it was years ago. We have a volleyball conference, which I know we talked about, but if you've never worked a dance competition, a cheerleading competition, a volleyball competition, it's they're different breed. They're different beasts. They're amazing. So yeah, that's what we're doing today. You know, getting open up in Boston.
Yeah, I love it. So speaking of Boston and everything like that, let's dive into a little bit about who you are, because I think what you do and what you've done is super fascinating, and then all the other things that you do outside of your current job here. So let's break this down. How did Thomas Whelan get to where he's at right now? Quick story.
Quickly, I got my first job in a restaurant at 14, and I just haven't left. You know, I like to say, if I was a Real Housewife, my intro line would be "Life's a buffet, and I want seconds." And that's just how I am. Like, I love the culture of food, the experience of food, the food stories we get to tell. You know, how you can walk into a restaurant in the world and be transported to a different place through the culture of their food. I currently am at the Boston Convention and Exhibition Center, which is one of the two convention and conference centers in Boston, Massachusetts, the other being the Hynes. And I am the director of banquets / kind of operations for both buildings for food and beverage with an amazing team who I adore. And that's kind of how I got here. We, again, range from, I had a meeting of 5 people yesterday, and we're planning meetings for 45,000 in a couple months, because we are getting back to business. You know, things are a little different, but we're super excited, and I know we'll dive into that. And for anyone who's listening or watching, we will definitely be diving into that into Fridays at Event Next, which I am super excited for.
Yeah, likewise. I think we all are, and I'm knowing what you're talking about. And for those of you who aren't aware, as privy to the info as I am, Event Next is going to be fun. His presentation is amazing and really breaks down how to cater, like he said, from 30,000 or 30 to 30,000 and everything in between, and what a food experience looks like. And we're going to touch on it today. But before we do that, you mentioned a couple things, and I want to highlight a couple things you do outside of just your director of banquets and catering and things like that, because I think they deserve the really highlight as much as everything else. So you're the board member, or you're on the board of the Search Foundation, correct?
Yes, the Search Foundation, if you are not familiar, is this incredible foundation that provides crisis relief. So money, literally just to be flat out money, to event professionals in crisis, whether that is your house got burned down, which that is something they've given money to, or you have medical bills, you've been out of work and you've gotten sick, or your kids, anything that you need. The Search Foundation provides grants of up to $5,000 for people. And what's super cool about it and amazing is 100% of all qualified applicants to the state have been funded. So there's no like, if you are qualified, which means you are a member of the events industry in any capacity, that's catering, hospitality, live events, anything. If you work in mass gatherings and you are in crisis, you are qualified. If anyone is currently in crisis, I implore you to go to searchfoundation.org, fill out the application. The turnaround is wild. The team that works on the application process, we were at a board meeting and I heard that an application got in around 4 p.m. and then we broke for a little bit, and at dinner, which was 8 p.m., I was like, oh, how are things going? Because it is anonymous. They were like, oh, the grant has already been issued. 4 hours. Like 4 hours, they made sure that a check was in the mail to get someone the help they needed. It's truly amazing. And those of you who are on the other side where you might have a little bit extra nowadays because events are coming back, or you just had an amazing event, giving to Search is a wonderful opportunity to become a partner and supporter, which we are. Search Foundation is a partner and supporter of EventNext, which is, how I was introduced to you guys. So it's just really cool and amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I very much value this relationship with not only you, but the Search Foundation. As you said, they are one of our sponsors and partners in EventNext in 2 weeks. That was not a plug. That was just simply stating a fact. So, and then continuing on, because you are a busy human, you're also on the board of directors of the LGBT Meeting Professionals Association, correct?
Yeah, so LGBT MPA is an organization that empowers and amplifies the LGBT plus meeting and events professionals. I found out about them about 2 years ago at a NACE conference in the glamorous Cincinnati. Shout out to Cincinnati. I went to a networking event and I was like, oh, this is really cool. This was before DEI and diversity and inclusion were heavy parts of everyone's kind of culture. And I was like, it's really great that there's this organization that's, creating networking opportunities, especially as anyone who is in any type of community, which is like most of us, where there is some form of like marginalization or differences, to be able to connect and, mentor and have conversations and share education and resources on how to advance it's monumental. And so it's a great organization as well.
Yeah, no, that's super cool. And before we get to the food, you have one more thing on your resume here. And I want to bring it up because we're looking at partnering with the same folks here, but you're the president of the Massachusetts Live Events Coalition.
Yeah.
So for those of you who have been living under a rock for the last, 12, 15 months, what is the Live Events Coalition?
So the Live Events Coalition is a national organization. The Massachusetts is the state organization, similar to most other associations, groups, and how it's broken down. But LEC, and particular MLAC, which we affectionately call it, we are there for the support, representation, and advocacy of any member of our industry. In Massachusetts, our members, our coalition, it started in July. A group of people formed and they threw a press conference at the State House that said basically on July 20, and basically said, like, we're out of work. You need to help us or get us back to work. And we've used that kind of, attitude of advocating for an industry that is so underrepresented in, we've had meetings with senators, we've had meetings with reps, I had the distinct pleasure of testifying for a joint committee in Massachusetts. We are literally out there advocating for the industry. We have actual lobbyists in DC. So there are people lobbying in DC finally for the events industry. And it's going to go beyond, like, yes, we're getting back to work, but that advocacy and that lobbying goes beyond just the current situation we're in, because I don't ever want something to happen again. But now we know that in a moment's notice, we could lose it all. We could all find ourselves pivoting, which I don't hate that word, unlike other people, pivoting to other things. So, there are things that we can do now to better prepare ourselves, which is what every other major kind of industry has done. You know, we're looking at NACE codes, we're looking at business liability, we're looking at all those things and how to protect the amazing people of this industry. Everything I do, I want to be a love letter for this industry, because if you've ever served someone, planned something, had to get yelled at by like a mother of the bride, or like anything at all where you've had to help someone plan an event, like, you're my people, I love you, and everything I do, I want to represent you to the best.
Even the dance moms out there.
Even the dance moms. You too. I love a dance mom. Just don't point your rage at me. I'm good. The buffet will be filled.
All right. Well, that's super cool. I love. That's why I wanted to highlight those for those of you. I know the titled food. Okay, we're going to get into food right now, but I wanted to highlight the organizations you work with, because they're not only partners of yours and doing good things in the industry, they're partners of us here at ViewStub. And so let's get into the food. Let's get into the food, Thomas. So you are the Director of Catering and Banquets at a big old hotel convention center, basically, right?
So we are a 516,000 square foot continuous convention center, and I am on the operations side. Our sales team is led by the incomparable Jennifer Bertolino, who may be listening. So hi, shout out. She is. I know her. She is definitely listening. But so
you said Jen Bertolino?
Jen Bertolino.
She's
Jen
listening.
Bertolino.
I see her.
Jen Bertolino. Yeah, good. She's my, A1 since day one. She kind of deals with the sales, and then, we always say that sales sells the nightmare. Wait, no, sales sells the dream, ops lives the nightmare. So she's the pleasant dreamer, and I am in the nightmare. But our relationship is actually really great. We find ourselves collaborating quite often. But I take the shows, and whether it's from 10 to 10,000. One of our annual events is a plated lunch for 13,000 people. It's a conference that happens at the BCEC, so it's amazing. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm looking more at taking your order and zhuzhing it, amplifying it, making it the best experience ever. Kind of like I was listening to a couple episodes ago, you did a screen fatigue, and I know you were very impassioned about it. But there is, once we get back into conferences and events, people have like a food fatigue. There's people who are constantly at shows, constantly at events, constantly at conferences. It's like, oh, another chicken inside. How exhilarating is this?
So excited.
Yeah, I am so
bag
thrilled.
Turkey sandwich.
Yeah. Thanks for the box lunch. So we do some really cool stuff. We do, we'll do a bento box lunch. We will, we do really fun, cool things for groups of any size to, limit that food fatigue. Yeah,
no, I'm with you. And we will break that in. That was on my topic list, because I was like, we had chatted about this before. I was like, we're just so tired of turkey sandwiches. But before we do that, obviously we all know what's going on in the world. We know what catering used to look like, and what it looked like pre-pandemic and things like that. But as we start to come back to live events, and keep in mind, as you know, this show's for event professionals and organizers, what are some things that the average organizer, like myself, has to think about with food and safety and things like that in regards to this new world that we're trying to navigate right now? What are some things that we have to think about going into that now?
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing I really to stress is this kind of return is actually like an ascension to what used to be or better. So we're all kind of going up a flight of stairs, and every state in my mind is on a different step at this point. You have Texas, who bought like one of those hover round, and they just went right up, and Florida, who, they've been just in cruise control. And then places like Massachusetts, up until 4 days ago, we didn't think we were returning until August 22nd in Boston. And that just got bumped to May 29th. So everyone is at a different step. So if you're a planner, if you're an organizer, the best thing you need to do right away is find out what step your event is on. Find out where it is and actually read the guidelines. Do not listen to other people, because kind of like the fake news thing and the rumor mill and gossip and like sharing stories, like things get twisted and amplified and negativized, if that's a new word, patent pending.
Coined here on EventMASTERS.
As people do it. So you need to read them yourself. And this is not laws. This isn't like legal jargon. This is simple lines. Like for Massachusetts example, there's one line that says any food service that isn't an attended buffet cannot open. So what does that mean? That means if someone isn't at the line, it cannot be self-serve. If someone isn't there helping, making sure that there's cleanliness. So you need to know those things, because at the end of the day, depending on that state as well, who's liable? There's liabilities at hand, and you want to make sure that you know what's going on. The good thing about food and beverage is we in food and beverage have been dealing with different viruses, different epidemiologists, our entire career. I have to take a test every year on the norovirus. We've been considering these things the entire way. Those plexiglass things at Starbucks, we've always had them on some buffets. You ever go to a buffet in Vegas? They do not let you touch it. There is a screen there. We've been considering these things the whole time. So if you're working with a reputable, great place or a wonderful caterer, they're going to tell you exactly what you can do and what you can't do. And that's kind of like the legal blah. Now we're entering those people who are like 2 or 3 steps away, and it's full open. Okay, so now we need to look at the attendee experience and what even though you have a license to do whatever you want, what's important to your culture, to your company, to your event. Is it 4 people at a round? Is it physical distancing still implied? Like all those things. And then once you have those regulations and then your comfort level, deciding what to do. And what's really cool is this is such, and I get into this deeper in the presentation, but you can either innovate or you can respond. You can either just create a one-time response, a one-time solution, a quick fix, or this could be your moment for greatness, to be the first person to do anything. And as food and beverage providers, we have to decide. Do we want what we were doing in 18 and 19 when most of us were having gangbuster years, and every one of us has said it, 2020 was our biggest year yet. Well, buckle up. 2021, 2022, 2023, you ain't seen nothing. Like we're ready to go. What do you want to do? You're going to see a lot of our planners, our promoters looking at this is a good moment for us to find out more cost-effective decisions, changing something from a buffet to maybe a plated. They have a license finally to change that 15, 20-year-old kind of stale, for lack of a better word, event and, really re-energize it, make it cool, include hybrid. Are you sending things to people when they're watching at home to get them to be a part of it? Because we have 5 senses. This is just 2, if you're listening, which are most attendees listening. Depends.
That's debatable.
When you're sending, care packages from your caterers or local flavors, spices, stuff like that, you're engaging smell, you're engaging taste. So you're like halfway there to a full-fledged in-person experience. The only thing that you really need to do is somehow ruin their day through public transportation. And then you've got the whole thing. You know what I mean? Create some unnecessary hassle for them that reminds them of the joys of going to a conference or event.
I like that. Well, I do like, I want to break this conversation down into 2 more things. I think you're 100% right. So there's the in-person element, and obviously this pandemic has brought on the evolution of hybrid events. So before we go hybrid and virtual and what we can do away from the screen, which is really cool, and I've heard you talk about, let's talk about some of those things that you're talking about here, the staleness of what a lot of events are, and the things we were joking about a couple minutes ago about the same brown bag lunch that everybody gets, or the same chicken salad that we get at every single conference. What are some things and ways that organizers like myself and everybody watching can elevate that food experience in person from your perspective?
So one thing that is kind of post this, quarantine world is people have new flavor profiles they like. People raise your hand if you ordered too much food over the last 14 months to be delivered to your house. It's going to be like everyone, right?
Yeah.
What happened was we were ordering so frequently, we got sick of our favorite things, and we looked at that other menu page we've never noticed before. People have been like, oh, I guess I'll just order whatever this is. And now they're like, I love curry. I like glass noodles. Of course I eat glass. All these foods and flavors that they never wanted to. They were just so sick of a sub or a salad or a styrofoam clam stuffed with deli pasta that, they went and experienced new flavors, new things. So you have that is now you need to incorporate these new things that they consider standard. We are seeing an incredible rise in spices that people love. If you don't believe me, look at Trader Joe's. I talk about the Trader Joe's spice mixes every day. I use one of them every day. Shout out to Trader Joe's if you want to sponsor me. I'm not an influencer. I'm barely a human, but
you're getting there. You're on everything. So I'll get you a t-shirt. Let me make some calls for you.
Yeah, get me like one of those Hawaiian t-shirts, which I will wear.
We know.
And people have you had the new citrusy salt garlic, which is a combination of citrus and Cajun flavors? Or, I got excited because there's a new one out, like Georgica. I've never tried it, but it's allegedly semi Spaniard African flavor mix. These are flavors that people didn't want. People were like, don't make it too salty. That was the flavor notes you're getting. I taste a lot of pepper. I taste a lot of pepper in this. And you're like, well, it's because you put pepper on it. You know what I mean? So now it's, side note, always taste your food before you season it. Anyways, people are
take away anything from the show. That's it right there.
Yeah, take that bite before you throw the salt on. You never know what's in there. And a pinch is an unmeasurable amount. So people are looking at different flavors. And then on the opposite side, people want the familiar. Because there are people who are like, no, I want home cooked meals all the time. Because I found YouTube for the first time because I wasn't, working all day in Microsoft Teams. I learned a trick to keep it active. So I started watching Bon Appetit videos, and I realized that I was making insert random food that everyone makes, mac and cheese. I was making mac and cheese wrong. I didn't know that you could put other cheeses instead of Kraft in there. And now they want those kind of basics that people love, but to their new home cooked standard, because they can cook. How great is that? Now they can cook for themselves. So now they know what might be kind of a not great meal, but it was great to them because they had never experienced something other than what they make at home.
That's a very fine point. And I'm sitting here thinking about act in reality too. And my girlfriend's the same way. Just this whole pandemic, she's tried everything, and now she loves Thai food. And before, she would never touch it. And it is because they were forced to try new things because they got tired of the same old chicken sandwich. But that leads my point to the events, because I think for years, and I hope what people take out of this pandemic and things like that, because you said it, is getting rid of the stale, not looking at food as just something that you have to do. They check off the box, oh yeah, we fed them. But food can really elevate the experience, right? And one thing I know is this thing loves to take photos of food.
Yeah.
So the prettier the food is, they post it online, tag you and all that. Food becomes your marketing vehicle. And I know, so where can folks really elevate their experience when it comes to food in general on the in-person side? What should be some things they think about?
If you've never searched a hashtag for one of your events and seen a plate of your food, you should unbox that. I love, after an event, looking at the hashtag of the event and trying to find where people talked about the food. Good, bad, indifferent. I just want to know, because engagement at any level is important. We're all event producers. We know if they're not engaged, they're not coming back. And whether you're the valet, security, F&B, what are you doing to get that return business? Because I don't know about you, but I love living in a home. I love eating. So I'm always considering where's the next step for business. So for the conference we do with 13,000 people coming in, we do a plated meal. We've now switched a kind of a compostable kind of bento box style meal. And so the first year we did it, the entire event, I had alerts on what's going on. How are people reacting? People loved it. Another event, which was tech heavy that we had, it was 6,500 people, reception after party. I'm looking online. There's people live streaming from the bars we have set up because they liked the signature cocktail. It is so important. And it sells tickets for your next event. I'm not your marketing person, but believe me, your food and beverage can be a really great marketing solution for you. And I know F&B, and people don't talk about it enough, and I probably will get slapped on the hand to talk about it, is expensive. I know we are, for some people, the biggest chunk of your budget. And when you're trying to move things around because you want an immersive experience or a video wall or this and that, and you're trying to find the money, you're like, well, what if we just shave $3 off every single person's lunch? it's going to cost you more than you will ever know. Because when it's cool, when it's Instagrammable, when it's shareable, people get food envy. If you've never been out to eat with your friends and looked across the table and been like, why didn't I order that? That is the same thing that can happen to the people who almost came to your event. And they see that photo online, that gorgeous sandwich, that amazing salad, that, filet, lobster tail, whatever your thing is. And they could be like, oh, I want to go to there. Like, I want to eat that. You know what I mean?
That I like steak.
Yeah.
No, I'm with, and that's why I want to, because I think you touched on this as well before, like that it's not just about the food experience. Like if people are like, why should I give people delicious food? Well, one, delicious food always like wins.
Yeah.
If you want me to show up to your event, there better be food and drink.
Yeah.
But it's also, if you do it right, like Thomas is saying here, right? If you do it correctly and do it with a little bit of flair and experience and a little bit of just not what you're currently doing, right? Put a little sauce on it, right? Once you do that, it becomes a very invaluable marketing tool, because it's already a pop culture phenomenon to pull your phone out and take photos of. Like, I can't go to a restaurant without seeing it 10 millennials taking photos of their food. Same thing for your events, and then it becomes a taggable worthy thing on their Instagram, gets you exposure. And then, like you said, now we start getting people who maybe would have come, but now they're getting to see the different levels of experience that you're providing, and they're geting FOMO. They're like, wait, I want to go. Those 10 speakers combined with, they have like a gold plated brunch and a luncheon. Like, I want to go. If I could talk today, good Lord. So super cool on the in-person side. Now let's take this, obviously, like we said prior, the world's moving into a hybrid world. I don't know if you guys ever heard of View Stuff. That's what we do, right? And we can't forget about those folks. That we want to provide them some level of experience, even though they're not coming in person. And so there's all this talk right now in our virtual event tech world of like, how can we blend the audiences? How can we provide experience to the virtual side that makes it just as valuable and things like that? And one of those ways is going beyond the screen and gifting them things and like that. And we could totally talk about swag and gifts, but you could also send them food or different ways to get them to eat. So let's talk about that, Thomas. Let's talk about that. What are some ways that we can do that?
Yeah, I've seen so many cool things. Like I'll do it kind of briefly in like 3 steps. There's like the intro, the beginner, and like the like wild, amazing kind of levels you can do it. And, from just like an intro part is sending like product, sending like a meal kit, and then incorporating into your live stream or your live event, bringing a chef on to walk them through how to make the meal. We wish you could have dinner with us. This is what we're going to eat for dinner. If you want to make it with us, now we have a networking event where, sipping wine, making something in the kitchen. Everyone can bring their computer in. It's an immersive experience. Then you have, like, say your event was supposed to be in Texas, but it got canceled. Or I'll do Boston, but it got moved. Send them a box of local favorites. We wanted you here just as bad. Here is some Boston baked beans and, some licorice and taffy and Mike's cannoli. We somehow got you that because we know that you're missing this experience as much as us. And then when they sit down in front of their screen and you want them to stay on, they're snacking, they have the flavors, the feeling. They're not missing as much as what either they couldn't go to the in-person part, or it's just been moved virtually. And it's just something that they can enjoy. And then like my favorite is there's a couple companies, and I actually name names at EventNext, which I don't think I should because I'm like terrible. I'm not sponsored by anyone. But that literally will send you a kit on how to make a cocktail with like a certified mixologist / entertainer. And you have this like super cool kind of like happy hour cocktail mixology session. And that's like amazing. And because you have all that information, when people register, you can just surprise and delight them. You can just be like, we're thinking of you. Or, even simple things like Low Country Cuisine in Texas has a Yabba Dabba Doo spice. And it's like the Cajun kind of Texan flavors. Just tell them to make some popcorn, send them that, and they sprinkle it on there. And now they get to feel like they're a part of it. And your budget, whatever that is, can get something. Shipping's pretty inexpensive these days, unless you're sending them cases of Dom P, in which my address will be below.
We'll put in the comments.
Yeah, just Trader Joe's shirts and champagne, please.
I got you. Let me see if I can make some calls.
Yeah.
No, and I love that. I love how you're going with the local theme, because that is just one way overall that I know we get even deeper into at Event Next of how to elevate your cuisine and how you should tie cuisine and food and beverage into your event. Events are hyper local things, right? Mm-hmm. You're doing them from somewhere. If you're doing, like, I always go back to Texas because it's my favorite city to do, or favorite state to do events in. And you will not let me. I'm not going to do an event in Texas without barbecue. Yeah. And if there's a way that I can send brisket to someone in Virginia, I will. If you can help me figure that out, I'll do it. But virtually, it does help you, right? It helps tie the senses back. And that's really where Thomas is going with this, is that at events, I can hit you in every sensory overload. I can make you want to leave with all the senses I can hit. But at virtual, it's hard to do that. You're only getting a couple. So going beyond the screen with food and things that will remind them, especially if they're used to, let's say they're used to going to your event every year in Texas. Well, now it's gone virtual or they can't make it. Well, still give them that feeling that they're there. They're like, one of their favorite restaurants, or just those Texas flavors, like you're saying, that really does psychologically kind of tie them to that and brings the whole kind of concept together. So I love how you do that. Any other tips and tricks on going beyond the screen? There's an advanced level I heard you talk about too.
Well, no, yeah, like let's go to let's jump to Texas. Let's hop into Austin. If you have an event in Austin every year, there's a likelihood that your attendees always go to Franklin's. Franklin's is like the best. Yep. Yeah. Franklin's ships nationwide. Send it to them. If you can do it, that is the advance. That is the finding out that signature moment outside of your event, and because there's a thoughtfulness to it. We know that you love our event because you come every year. Maybe this is just to a select group. They've gone every 5 years to your event, or you can find out what that metric is. We know you come here and you probably are missing this Texas barbecue. A note, Franklin ships it, it gets delivered. Every city, I have a caterer in Boston who can send up to 1,000 meals for next day to your attendees. It is there. This technology is there. Any person who's ever been on a meal plan, or any person who's ever advertised to me a meal plan on Instagram, that is the same thing. It's sending meal plans. I get one that I love. I throw it in the microwave for 2 minutes and it's like the best meal ever. And you can do that for your attendees. That's the advance, is when you're thinking outside of the walls of your event to the experiences outside, which are such big factors for your main event, and making it inclusive to your now hybrid or virtual solution.
I love that. Yeah, no, I'm with you. It's you got to figure out all the different ways to go beyond the event, make it bigger than what it is. And it's really just, don't becoming just that person that checks off boxes. Like when you get down to the food line and there's food and beverage and you're going, should I do, brown bag lunches because it fits in my budget? Or it's really not that, food and beverage, like you said, is usually my bigger cost. But like to go from like turkey sandwich in a brown bag with like Lay's potato chips to something, at least the next notch up, is not that more expensive, and it's going to be completely worth it. We're not saying you have to have like, big old Grey Goose drinks that are like $82 a piece and they have gold flakes in them, and LeBron James will come over and pour it for you. Like, we're not asking that.
I love that level of our menu.
If you have, okay, we got to talk, because that's what I'm down for. But yeah, it doesn't take that much, and that's really what we wanted to take this episode and impress upon you guys, is just the food of the event can be a great elevation to the experience. It can be used as a marketing tool. Right? If you guys take anything of this, if you're just like, I don't want food, and you're like, what does food get me? More eyes, because people love taking photos. And then understand that there's ways to elevate it in person and virtually. That's the big thing that I think a lot of people are going to be talking about. And we're excited for you, Thomas, to dive even deeper in all of this at Event Next. So that being said, just one last thing of like anything food related, life advice, whatever it is, Thomas, this is your stage, whatever it is. What do you want to leave people of EventMASTERS with?
The first thing is, when you're planning your menu, remember that food is called the culinary arts for a reason. It is an art form, and your chefs are artists. So artists like to be challenged. So, say, is this what we can do? Can we get a mix of something else? Let them use that kind of skill set they have. Let them, use their brushes to paint you a beautiful menu. And second, if anyone wants to talk about food, I'm always available on LinkedIn or Instagram. Or I also have a podcast that isn't really like this. We just talk to people in events about what their biggest regrets are. And it's called With Regret. So check it out.
Yeah, for sure. And all of that we will link. We have Thomas's LinkedIn's and Instas and podcast links and everything. We'll drop them in the comments for you guys. But Thomas, this was absolutely fun. I always like jamming with you, and excited for you to be at Event Next in a pre-thank you for being a part of the event and everything. Make sure you guys go check out Thomas on all social medias, like and connect and subscribe, all the good things I tell you to do for us. And then also keep in mind, like, subscribe, and follow us here at EventMASTERS on social medias. And with that being said, this was episode 17 of EventMASTERS. Thomas, once again, very much thank you. And we will see you guys on the next episode.